I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job. Done.
Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Everybody wants to live together. Why can't we live together?
Hello, all you melanated beauties, sun-kissed by God's lips. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm sipping power to pour you the truth. Go grab your cup. Let's fill it
up. Welcome. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm joined today by Olympic gold medalist Michelle Carter, who, like me, is a divorcee, happily divorced.
Yes.
And we're talking about life after dating. If you joined us in the 11 o'clock hour, we talked about Nick Cannon and how he is single-handedly trying to repopulate the black world so that we can become the largest minority. He's decided, I believe, he has not told me this, I do not know him personally. However, allegedly, I believe he said, I'm going to give the Hispanic community a run for their money, and I'm going to be out here literally dropping it low and spreading it wide. But he took this on after he was divorced. This whole idea about dating and children, someone else would say, well, he got sick and he got the diagnosis, and so this was a way to leave his legacy. But there are women out there that would have had as many children as he wanted. He wanted to have children with different women, and that arrived because he had the conventional notion at one time. You know, he married Mariah and they had twins, and then he got divorced, and he was like, well, shoot, there's too many women out here for me to just not do my thing. So, you know, when you get divorced and you're looking at going back into the dating pool, and I did a show that talked about there's pee in the pool, and you know, and there are different people out there. We have the CPR people that need, you know, kind of to be resuscitated. They've been hurt so badly they shouldn't be dating anyone. And then you have the people that just like to swim around. They don't want to commit to any one spot. They're just kind of out there. They're the swimmers. You have divers that are very skilled at that one thing. Yeah. But all they can do is dive and swim and get out and dive and swim. That's what they know, right? Yeah. So they just keep entering into things, but there's no fulfillment. Yeah. And then you got those out there that's belly flopping. Like they get in there and they hit the water, hurt themselves, and everybody around them. You got all kinds of people in the dating pool. So your experience, and you were talking about, you know, when we were discussing it, you said, you know, you have to take accountability and look at yourself. And I think what's happening with us specifically, with black people and black women in particular, is we are filtering out so many things all the time, right? And we're trying to find, if you're divorced, you're happy, your new normal. You close the door on all the things that you didn't like, that didn't make you happy. And you're trying to reclaim a part of yourself and figure out, you know, what it is I want. But I think the smartest thing that divorced people have, male or female, is that they already know what they're not going to tolerate.
That is true. I can agree with that. Because when you experience certain things, and you gave that person a pass because that was who you was with. Yes, and you were like, okay, we're here, we're gonna try to figure this thing out. But then you go into the next situation, you're like, listen, this is what I do not want. You draw a hard line. But what I also realized,
because you've already experienced
it. But there are things and experiences that you're going to experience from new people that you don't know you don't like yet. Until it actually happens.
That's right.
And so that's kind of where I was. I'm like, okay, I experienced this and this. I'm like, but what else don't I like? And what else do I like? Because I don't know yet.
How long were you married?
Like this? For 2 years.
Girl.
I know, it wasn't that long.
Well, listen, I'm not talking about that. I'm simply saying smart enough to know this is not working out. This is not for me. And I'm just not going to stay and in a situation where I already know I'm not happy?
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to tell the truth.
Don't know, because on this show, we sip power to pour truth.
He left.
Okay.
He left. And so...
Were you prepared for it?
We never talked about it. Never mentioned the word divorce.
Really?
Never said anything. He woke up one day and said he was gone. Period. And what do you do in that moment?
You hold up two fingers.
Exactly.
Deuces. That's what
so
you do.
what I did was I did my due diligence. We went to go talk to the counselor.
Okay.
Talk to the pastor.
Smart.
I want to check all the things off the list, saying that I wanted to figure out what was going on. Not the fact to where we had to reconcile, but what happened, right? But either way,
did he ever give you an explanation?
No, his explanations didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense, because if you put yourself out as a person who is a man of God, and this is what you believe, and then things don't go the way that you thought it's going to go, it's not as easy as you would like it to be. Right. You don't jump ship.
That's right.
And then that's what I kind of realized. Everybody don't know how to fight. Everybody doesn't know how to fight, because I felt like the issues that he said could have been talked about. Because to me, if I put that things that were going on in the communication bucket. Okay. You have to figure out how to communicate to each other, to where I could talk to you, you understand, and I talk to me, and I understand you, and then we come together in the middle. That's right. And so that's what teammates do. You figure it out. And
okay, so, athlete. That's what teammates do. I saw what you did there. And
so, in some people, and that, even just to go back to sports, because even while I'm going after the gold medal, 3 months before the gold medal, there was a point in time where I could barely walk, and I'm in pain. But it didn't stop me from fighting for what I wanted at the end. Yes. And so I don't mind fighting through the hard time, because in 2 years worth of marriage, we got two individuals who are in their 30s, mid-30s, who've been married for the first time.
Oh, both of you were newly married.
Yes, both of us were newly married. Okay. So there's a lot of things that you have to experience. I ain't never lived with no man.
Girl, because that toilet paper thing will really mess you up. Why can you not put the toilet paper on the roll correctly?
The right way. I need to roll out.
Oh, thank you. Why am I reaching under here to pull?
It doesn't make sense. That's extra movement.
Oh my gosh.
But there are just things that you have to fight through and understand that, okay, if we're going to do this together, there are going to be times where we're not going to get along. We're not going to like each other. But we made a commitment. And so I was expecting both of us to honor our commitment. Because you were true to the commitment.
There you go.
Because I meant what I said when I said I do. And I understand that there are going to be times where it's going to look ugly. And it's going to get uglier sometime before it gets better. But I made the commitment. And so, and if he felt like that wasn't the commitment that he wanted, I had no choice but to let it go. Correct. And I feel like, even though in the process I'm trying to figure out, like, what? Like, this is like, how do you just but I got confirmation along the way to let me know that, hey, it's okay. This is how this is going to go.
So let me ask you this. When you said, okay, look, I'm going to fight for the two of us. Because that's basically what happened. He said, I'm out. And you said, wait, hold up. Let's go over here. Let's talk. Let's check all the boxes, right? So when I walk away, because I'm assuming this is what you said, because I feel like this is part of womanhood and black womanhood on top of that. When you say, I'm going to do everything that I can do, so when it's over, I can tell myself, let it go, because you did all you could do.
Yes. And that's exactly what I did. Yeah. I wanted to check all the boxes, because I don't want to go back and regret it.
I understand that.
And it could have just been something simple, and we could have fixed it. So let me check all the boxes, because I'm the type of person, like, if I'm gonna let it go, I have hard facts on why I let it go. Right. I'm just not gonna let stuff go, and then it's just because I just don't feel like it today. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I did my due diligence, but halfway through that due diligence, not even really halfway, in the first like 1/8 of it, I realized, okay, no, you gotta let this go.
For me, so I was kind of different. And I have a lot of women that have told me, well, your situation is different. I've experienced a lot of women where the man just, whether it was 2 years or 20 years, was out. And I've talked to a lot of men about that, and well, a lot, like I'm just on a circuit. But I mean, people talk to me.
Yeah,
I'm very pleasant, and so you know, I've had a lot of friends share things with me, and for me, I married someone that I had literally known since I was 13. Mm-hmm. So I thought I knew him. I thought he knew me, and then we got married, and things just changed completely. Exactly. And people say he changed. I used to say, nah, he didn't change. You ignored it. You know, my grandma used to say, you don't understand why people do what they do. Say what they say. Just keep on living. Right. Well, that was one of my keep on living moments because I really did think I knew this man. Yeah. And he flipped the script on me. Mm-hmm. And so I was married for 12 years. Mm-hmm. We were separated for about 18 months before the divorce. He took literally a little better than a year to sign the papers. And where we were was me being, I was ready to go after 5 years. Well, really before that. Yeah. But at 5 years, I was like, I was just staying for the children. Yeah. And then I thought, well, you're here, try to make it work because there was something between you all and you all were friends at one time. And to me, friendship is very important. Mm-hmm. I'm a very loyal person. People can spend time with me and walk away and think I'm fantastic. So I've been told. Right. So, you know, I'm fantastic and they remember me and I don't, because I'm in that moment with you. Yeah. But that without an indelible mark, that moment passes me. I meant everything I said in that moment. Yeah. But then that moment is fleeting for me. And so people think sometimes I'm trying to be funny when I can't recall, but that is just kind of how I'm wired. I'm in that moment with you, but I may not carry that moment with me, right? And so in this relationship, I'm thinking friendship will prevail over everything because we're friends. And there are just certain things you don't do. And I remember telling a friend of mine, when she was talking to her husband, she was so upset. And she said, I said this and he said that. And I said, oh, you said that to him? She said, yeah. And she was like, I just feel like I need to leave. What do you think? And I said, well, I'll never tell anybody to leave their marriage. But I will say this. Anytime you start to talk to a man, the man that you are sharing your life with, your bed with, and you start to say things that are just inherently disrespectful, you no longer respect that man, and you need not stay in a relationship where there is no respect. So I will never advocate for anybody to leave their marriage, but respect is everything. Respect is everything.
And you know, I didn't realize that I did lose respect for my husband until after the fact. Because to me, I'm just tired of... You have to reflect on it, don't you? Yeah, you have to reflect on it because I'm just tired of certain things being the way it is. Because number one, this is not what you said. And then number two... we keep talking about this and you said that it's going to be different, but we keep experiencing the same thing. Like I'm back at square one. So I'm kind of a little bit fed up. Yeah. So then my mouth might get a little slick. I'm going to admit that that's something I had to work on, but it's like,
I'm raising my hand for the people who cannot see me.
Right. And so it's like, that respect factor is really thin. And I think for women, we lose respect for people more than we know that we do. Because once we don't know it.
We don't know it.
It just happens.
It just happens.
And it doesn't mean that you can't go back to respecting that person. But once you feel like you have been done wrong a certain kind of way, it's hard. The reverence I had for you has changed.
Well, and I don't think it's just women. I think men as well. Yeah. They're looking for certain levels, aspects of respect. Yeah. You know, some men define that as a home-cooked meal every now and then. Some men define it as a clean house. Some men define it as helping, you know, in some kind of way. If you know he's going to work 14 hours, maybe that's not your child, but can you pick that child, my stepchild, up so that I can continue to work and not leave my job. So men define respect in different ways. What we see on social media is them saying ridiculous things like cook me something to eat, but that's not only is it juvenile, it's also hurt talking. Yeah. It's in the walking wounded are out here on social media. And so we're like inundated, right? Yeah. And it's permeating us, but this is what we see. And we have decided that, you know, the dating pool has pee in it because this is what we see. Yeah. When oftentimes I overreact sometimes, you know, and I typically will say, let me talk to you later. I want you to know I'm upset, but I need to bridle my tongue because I'll say something I can't take back.
Exactly.
And I'm actually dealing with something now where I'm saying I probably shouldn't have reacted that way. But I mean, well, this is where we are now, but you know, I have to take a certain level of accountability. And in our relationships, I think when you are post marriage, you know, because people don't like to see it like the D word, divorce, has a really funky connotation, right? Yeah. But you're post marriage and you're kind of figuring some things out in your dating. Seemingly you would know what you want, right? But you meet this person and they're introducing you to new things. But nobody is perfect. Yeah. And I find that when we start to deal with things, we're saying, here are the things I absolutely don't want. I absolutely can't stand. I'm intolerable of these things all the way. And then you start to get new things. So all the things that, you know, your ex didn't do, this person is doing them. But then there are these other things, right?
And so I think what I did, when you mentioned something earlier about overlooking some things, and I felt like I was giving grace to some areas because
we have to grow.
Everybody needs room to grow. Right. And I truly believe in giving people space to grow. But then there's sometimes when things happen, you gotta just grow up in that moment and handle your business. Right. But I think that going back to that, but then the hurt part, people are so hurt and you have to sometimes decide, okay, is this you really talking or is this your hurt talking? Yes. And then now, post marriage, I can hear hurt talking. And I can hear it so clear. So there's been a time I went out on a date with a guy and we were talking and I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to tell you this. I said, you're not over your divorce yet. And he was like, why'd you say that? I said, because you said this, this, and this. I said, that lets me know that you still have hurt that you're dealing with. I said, which is perfectly fine. I said, I'm not here judging you, but I'm telling you that I've been here. And even though you've been divorced longer than me, I said, but I recognize that hurt. I said, you really need to go talk to somebody to decipher those feelings that you still have.
And not your homeboy. Because if a man wants some bad advice, he ask your friends.
Girl, that's another topic. But anyways, and when I told him that, he just kind of looked at me, he paused, and he was like, I appreciate you telling me that. He said, because I never thought about it that I was still hurt. I thought that I had moved on. I said, but I said, no, clearly you still have some things. I said, and that's okay. I said, you just, you know, I said, we're out here. I said, I'm just out here meeting people. I'm not expecting anything from this situation. I just wanted to go out to eat and have a conversation. And so I think in those moments, we have to be able to be honest with each other, because especially life after divorce, we're both are healing. Everybody is healing. I'm still healing. You, whoever else, like you're still healing.
Except for me. I was not healing. I was healed. That's why I left.
And so, and that people don't talk about that either. Before people leave, people expect you to be distraught, but sometimes that detachment
and that for not being distraught.
But you already went through your grieving process while you were still married, and people don't talk about that. People do not talk about that.
And I was as a black woman, and then oftentimes people think I'm younger than I am. You know, I people were literally saying things to me like, "Well, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And so then, it was like, well, why are you fine? Well, because I left knowing that it was time to go. And I remember being in counseling. I tell people all the time, go get you a person that has a diploma and a license on the wall, not necessarily the church. Now, I will say not the church, right?
Because a lot of them just have a certificate but no degree. But
well, and a lot of times they don't really even understand the issue, because I remember going to the church and talking about some issues in my marriage with a very prominent preacher now who listen to my show and he gonna fuss at me. But he made the comment about, well, you have the ring. This was not about me having the ring and being married. What we were discussing is there was a lack of loyalty. Like, I'm your wife, right? My husband told me, because he was my husband, so he's a husband. My husband told me, he said, well, I wouldn't tell. He was talking about his friend or whatever, and he said, and he starts to talk and he stops. And I said, well, what, you know what? And he was like, never mind. I said, well, you start. I can't stand that. When you start it, stop. Don't stop. And he said, well, I wouldn't tell him I'm not going to tell you his business, just like I wouldn't tell him yours. Well, so we're on equal footing with you, you and your friend. And so it wasn't that I wanted to know his friend's business, because trust me, I did not care. But the issue for me was, you have in your mind, you have us on equal footing. You have us, where we're the same. So if we're the same in your mind, then we're the same in your heart.
Yeah.
And there's a breakdown in how you deal with me. Because as your wife, whether you have a biblical standpoint or not, I am supposed to be, God, me.
Yeah.
God number one. And there is no A or B, right? Then me, I'm number two.
Exactly.
I think sometimes women get into this mode where we're doing things for men, because typically most of us are nurturers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we had some that didn't get in that line in heaven when they were handing out certain gifts and talents and traits, but for the most part, we're nurturers. And we tend to want to take care of the people that we care about.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get upset when we're both divorced, or maybe he's not been married, but he has children, he has other relationships, and vice versa. She might be in the same situation. We start to feel like I should be your number two. Well, not if you're not married.
Yeah.
It should be God or whoever their spiritual being is. And then it may be kids, and then their mom, and and somewhere in there, a man is identified by his job, so it's work. And so what you're looking for, I think, is if there's children and aging parents and that kind of thing, in the top 5. But you may not be number 2. In a marriage, you should be number two.
Exactly.
And he should be your number 2 after God.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about worldly people, that's your number 1.
Yeah.
And I think that is missed a lot of times.
It is.
You have people that bring in all these external factors, and that is what happened, in my marriage. And I've told this story so many times, Michelle, because I think it blesses people. I remember going to the counselor at the church, who happened to be wonderful. Like, she had gone through a little bit more than a 9-week course. You know what I mean? And she was a college-educated woman. And I remember her turning to my ex-husband, my husband, and she said, now, she's going to be all right, but I'm concerned about you. And he was like, I'm going to be fine. She said, I don't know, because I'm not sure you know how to be happy. And I remember thinking to myself, when you don't know how to be happy, when you can't make yourself happy, then you're going to be incapable of making someone else happy. And so that happiness that you're delivering to that other person becomes a chore. And she went on to say, well, he was like, oh, she's doing this and she was doing that. And she constantly was accusing me of having other relationships. It wasn't that I was having other relationships. I was, I had friends and I was talking. And I did share with someone, which I think he's talking about, someone close to me, my unhappiness. Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily evolving into this love affair, Yeah. My childhood friend, he was unhappy and I was unhappy. And maybe I shared too much. Now, I would own that part. And she said to him, she talked about all his allegations, and she said that couldn't possibly happen. And here is what I want people to take with them. She said to him, she could never do that to you. It's impossible for her to do that to you, because you've never been married to her. You've never held her in your heart. So when we are talking about the breakdown of marriage and how people come out of it, typically there is some time or place that person didn't hold you in their heart. Whether they never held you in their heart or they stopped. And so then you deal with that stoppage, because that is what creates the disrespect and the distrust and the reactions.
No, all that is so true, because I remember going back to the grieving part after the fact, and I wasn't as distraught as some people thought I would be, because there comes a point in the relationship where I realized what's going on with you, I cannot help you. Now, to keep this thing going, I have to detach myself in a way to still keep going on with my daily activities, to keep paying bills, to keep going on with life, because at this time I'm still competing, getting ready for my 4th Olympic Games, and I still have all these things going. And so there's a point when you realize, okay, you know what? I can't help you. Mm-hmm. And I think women, we fall into the trap that we want to help.
Captain save them.
And we cannot do that. There's a point when you have to look at a situation and realize what they need, you cannot give.
Right.
And there was a point when I realized what you need, I don't have for you. Right. And I need you to go talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. And so when we did go talk to somebody, you know, we had that whole situation. But then after the fact, and I went to go talk to a counselor, I guess. Oh, he is a real counselor, not like just a church counselor.
Right.
I realized there was a big difference because there were things that the counselor would say, and the other counselor, the church counselor, just he just wouldn't say it. But he said it to me after the fact.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if we're going to be the church and we're trying to get down to the real, we got to be real. We got to say the things that need to be said. Mm-hmm. And you can't make everybody happy walking away from every meeting that we go to.
Right.
Like there's some hard truths that need to be said so things can be dealt with accordingly.
Yeah.
And so going back to the comment I made about mental health earlier, when I say mental health, I'm not just talking about us going crazy. There's levels of depression that's mental health. Yes. There's levels of anxiety that we all have that's part of mental health. And then there's detachment.
Insecurity is also a part of mental health.
It is. And so there's so many variants of mental health that you don't know exactly when you're having a mental health crisis.
Yes, ma'am.
And sometimes it takes a minute because if I'm honest, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease with my thyroid, and it throws me all the way out of whack. And I remember I was struggling. Yeah. I was struggling, and I'm trying to convey this to my husband, like, babe,
something's wrong. Right.
I don't know what's going on. I'm having something is off, but instead of like looking at me like, okay, let's try to figure this out, like, well, you know, it was almost kind of like a hands-off thing, and I had to kind of handle it by myself. And so when I realized, I was listening to a podcast, and the girl was like, hey, like, sis, you haven't been doing this, you haven't been doing that, but she was talking about herself. Mm-hmm. But while she was talking about herself,
you felt it.
I felt it. I'm like, that's me. Like, I wasn't keeping up with my hair, I wasn't keeping up with my nails. You know, girl, I'm shot diva. Right. You know, like I carry myself in a certain way, but I was so deep down and I would say a mini depression. I was so overwhelmed trying to carry all these hats and do all
carry
these
his
things
stuff too,
and carry that. Mm-hmm. I said I was drowning, and I was sitting in the tub, and I heard that podcast, and all I could do was just cry because I realized
it was an answer.
Yeah,
it was an answer.
And I was like, you know what? Like, thank you. Like, now I know what's going on, and I can help, and I can figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so, in that moment, when I was going through that, and I'm trying to convey to the person that's supposed to be the closest to me that I'm struggling, I really need you to step up for me right now because I don't have it. I'm telling you I don't have it because I still have to do this, and this is what I'm known for. I'm got to get ready for this 4th Olympic Games. I'm struggling. I need you to come through for me.
But if he's broken.
But in that moment, I'm thinking, let's not be selfish.
Oh my gosh.
Don't be selfish.
And we do that, don't we?
Yeah, because there's a lot of times where I'm not going to be selfish. I'm going to step up because we got to step up. But women naturally do it more than men.
Yes, we do.
So therefore, I was like, okay, when that moment when I was like butt naked honest and I realized that you wasn't going to come through for me, in that moment, that's where that detachment started happening.
And not only is it a detachment, it breaks you. Because he's supposed to be your support, right?
Yeah.
You expect him to be your backbone. And I don't think that this is just women. I think there are a lot of men out there saying, hey, baby, I need some help.
Yeah.
I need you to know that I'm in pain.
Yeah.
That things are going on. I remember I had a friend whose husband was taking a lot of racism on the job. Mm-hmm. And she conveyed to me that he had basically broke down and started crying. And she said, I felt so helpless, I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And I said, a hug. Did you hug him? Did you tell him I got you? Did you tell him it's all right, I'll be there? Did you allow him the moment to be vulnerable and weak so that he could feel you hold him up? I don't think we do that as women, and we certainly don't know how to ask for it as women because I'm not sure that men have been taught how to give it.
No, they have not. And I think that's a big barrier for us, especially in the Black community, where the Black men feel like they have to carry whatever they got by themselves, but then the Black woman also feel there's a load that she has to carry by herself.
Right.
So moving forward, I've been harping in any situation that I have that I need you to communicate to me. I need you to let me know if you walk up on the wrong side of the bed. I need to know that, you know what, you are tired today and that's why your little attitude is a little short today. Like, I need to know everything about you. I need you to communicate that to me. So when I ask you questions about something, I'm not asking you because I'm just fishing for information. I see something and I need you to confirm it for me. So then I know how to handle you moving forward. I know where I need to be, right? And so I feel like that helped, but I'm going to pull that out of you, because if you can't give me that, then this is not going to work.
So here's been my experience when I have 2 boys and I talk to them a lot. And I remember one time a guy that I was seeing said, you asked him about, because my son didn't have a good basketball practice, and I said, do you want to talk about it? He hesitated for a while. He said, well, yeah, I do. And when he started to talk about it, and I was kind of sharing it with this guy, and he said, wow, that's awesome, because all my mom would have said is, oh, you didn't have a good practice. But I go that step further, Michelle, because I want my boys to communicate, because women are naturally communicators, and men who are not taught how to communicate, they haven't seen it modeled in their homes and their upbringing, they tend to close off and shut down. And so for me, in dating this guy, he would like go inward, and it would be a lot of pressure for me to get that out of him. But part of me getting it out of him was not just for me. You need to release it. You need to let it go. You need to be able to say, this is how I feel, because once it's all bottled up, you carry that with you, and eventually something's going to trigger that, and it's going to come up again. And so, you know, the thing that I think is the most serious thing that we do in dating, and many of us who are divorced, we say, no, I'm never going to do that again, is we don't address things in a way where we can bring forth resolution, because in silence, and a lot of men do this. This is not bashing men, but a lot of men do this. Men will become uncomfortable and shut down. Right. They go inward. So you're asking a guy something and he's not answering you, right? And then you're reading, and then you have to, well, answer me, because you need to talk it out for yourself, but you also need to understand the why. And without communication, you cannot get an explanation of the why. When he is so uncomfortable that he shuts down, I have learned, take a step back. I'm not saying don't get your question answered, but maybe you need to sit there inside. But maybe you need to sit there in silence with him. Maybe he's processing his thoughts. He's trying to figure out what is the best way to deliver to you your answer, because he's terrified, deathly afraid of your reaction. And so he's trying to think it through. And it took me a long time to figure that out. I did not do that in my marriage, but I did that in the next relationship, the real relationship that I had. And so, but the difference is that relationship was so important to me, you know, and that person had given me so much of what I lacked in my marriage that I wanted to preserve that in a meaningful way. And so when he is shut off and he's not talking, as women, we think you're hiding something. And so and when you don't talk, and men, this is for all of y'all, when you do not talk, when you do not answer the questions, when you go inward and you don't say anything, it breeds doubt and suspicion. And suspicion makes our minds work, and then we become insecure. And we develop ideas, thoughts, and concepts that may not be right. They may be completely inaccurate, but we're watching patterns and behaviors subconsciously and consciously to the point where we start to decide you're doing this because of that. And it may not be an equal, it may be completely wrong, but those doubts breed so much insecurity, we seek answers so that we can make our next move.
Because now we're pulling from all the experiences that we ever had to try to figure out, why are you doing this? And so, like the guy that I'm dating now, it may take him 2 days to process something. And only because sometimes he says that I present things to him that he's never really truly thought about, or no one's never said it to him like that. And so it takes him a minute to process it, because now not only does he have to process what I said, he has to process about what he feels about what I said. Does he feel like it's true, or why did I say that? And then he has to process, okay, now how do I communicate this to you
without her going off?
And
because
so
they are terrified of that.
They are. And so I try to create an environment that, because we are friends, and the guy that I'm dating now, we've been friends for a very long time. And so I told him, I said, at the end of the day, we're friends. I said, if nothing ever happens more between us, we still need to be able to be friends.
Right.
I said, so right now, however you need to say it, and let's backtrack afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I need you to get it out. And I don't want you to, in this moment, have to necessarily, because I'm not going to take it offense, because I know you're processing it, and you don't have to have your
but it
voice
takes so
perfect.
long to learn that, but you have to want to learn it.
Yeah, you do.
You have to want to learn that this person is actually trying to give you the answer that you need. And I still fall short in that because the guy was saying, you want, when we were having these conversations, right? You want an answer, but sometimes you just need to allow the silence. That silence is like deafening for me, you know. And I was telling a friend of mine about this particular situation, and she was like, I can't. It just makes me. I become anxious. And I said, well, you're anxious because you don't know what he's going to say, but you have to trust that this person is managing your heart in a sense and managing your feelings, and to allow that to take place. But I also think we need to do a better job if we're going to date as adults, because I recently turned 50. We need to do a better job of understanding what the other person needs, and to step outside of yourself, because it's a certain part of selfishness where you are engaged in a relationship with someone, you're dating this person, you know that this person is a communicator, and then you shut down. There's a certain part of selfishness. You have to say, this person needs this, and then, like you said, say, I need a moment. You know, let me call you back, because I need to process and go through. And I think that's part of being an adult is saying, you know, I'm very uncomfortable with this situation right now. Like, use your words. Yeah. And I need to go and come back so that I can give you what you need, because right now I can't, because I'm so uncomfortable. But and I think discomfort for men when they are engaged in conversations with us is polarizing.
Yeah. And I think sometimes as women, when we see that they're stuck, sometimes we have to give them the words too. I'm be like, you know what? I see that this is a little difficult conversation. I said, we can table this and we can come back to it. I said, we're not gonna get rid of it, but we're gonna come back to it. I said, you want to set a date? You want to come back to it, or do you use how you want to play this? Because sometimes they get into that place where they like, if I go this way, if I go that way. Yeah. And I've been in there in that situation too. So sometimes when I see that, I'm like, okay, this is a bit much for you today. We're done today. Yeah. And we're going to come back and try this again tomorrow.
I wonder though, with guys, he has to be open to the coming back, because, you know, a lot of times they just want to move on. They just want to move forward and not deal with it. And for me, this one particular guy, when that would not happen, you know, and you bring it back up, it's like, oh, you're dredging up old stuff. But I don't have a resolution. Yeah. And I've held it as long as I can, and then it kind of trickles out like diarrhea of the mouth. You know what I mean?
If you're not willing to come back and we're talking about, and to talk for us to talk about it, then that means we don't really need to be talking in that way. You're not ready. Yeah. Because if you really care about this relationship, and I would say not even just in a dating relationship, in a friendship relationship, if you're never willing to come back and resolve it and have a conversation, so we can if we don't get complete closure, let's get partial closure, but at least we talked about it enough to where we both kind of understand something, then that means you're still immature and you're not ready for the type of relationship that I'm ready to give. Right. So then I check, and then I can move on. And I think a lot of times we get so comfortable for people giving us the least of them, that we will take the minimum just so that we won't be alone. But we have to hold our own selves in such a high regard that I'm not going to settle for your little. And I think I deserve the most.
I think there are a lot of people that have been bred to keep their expectations low. Yeah. Men and women. Yes. And I think when you have standards and you say, look, this is what I need, you cannot acquiesce, because if you do, it breeds a certain level of contempt that may be quiet and it may be seeming dormant, but not getting what you need in a relationship can cause strife. and conflict.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to be mature enough to say, but this is what I need. And if that person cannot deliver what you need, then you absolutely need to move on. And I don't think we do enough of that.
Yeah. We don't.
Yeah.
I just had a situation where there was a little bit of a little situation. We talked about it, but my emotions came stronger the next day.
Yeah.
And so
that happens to me.
Yeah. And I was just like, I thought I'd let it go.
Well, for me too. And see, I told you I had a whole overreaction. Yeah. I regret what I said, especially the way I said it. But it was because as much as I tried to deal with it, I was triggered by it. Like people don't realize that we start to develop triggers.
Yeah.
And certain things can trigger you, and without you being able to completely lay something to bed, it becomes a trigger.
Yeah. But you have to always go back and let them know that was a trigger.
Right.
And it took a lot for me to come back to him and be like, I know we talked about this. I said, but I was sitting with this all day yesterday, and this is what I realized. Even though what you did in the grand scheme of things wasn't big,
right?
It's big to me because it triggered this in me.
Yeah.
And I realized that this is an insecurity for me. I said, so I need you to know that this is a big deal.
This is so mature, though.
Me. And when I came to him, he was like, okay, like, I get it. I understand that. And he was like, and I can be sensitive to that. And I appreciated that. But I had to go back and I felt embarrassed to go to him and say that to him. But I felt like if we're supposed to be friends and we're dating and I'm trying to build something long term,
right,
I have to go back to you and let you know where I stand on this.
Right.
I said, because if I don't let you know where I stand or where I'm at, and then you keep touching it and keep poking it and keep tagging at it, then it's gonna blow up for real, and it didn't have to.
Yeah.
And that was a place of I still needed to heal in an area, and I need you to be sensitive to that.
And I think, I've had friends tell me, oh, you guys' relationship is so mature. I've had people tell me, oh, y'all are goals. Y'all, y'all are an inspirational couple. Well, you should never do that because you don't know what's going on with people behind closed doors. So don't look at somebody thinking, oh, I want their relationship. Right? Because if the universe delivers it to you, now you in a whole cluster screw.
Like, this is what, girl, you was dealing with me.
Yeah, right.
You never know.
And everything is not for everybody.
It's not.
And so for me, I think I should never talk when I'm hurt.
Yeah.
Like when I'm upset about something or I feel hurt or just bothered, I should never have the conversation. But sometimes in those moments you become reactionary, right? It happens to you. It gets away from you before you can pull it back, before you can rein it in. It's already out there. And I've, made it a point to try to be calm, but sometimes even with my kids, you kind of lose yourself a little bit because you're tired of saying the same thing over and over and over. And so I think what we were not taught to do as children, and certainly trying to implement it as adults is huge. We were never taught to just stop, just say, you know what, it's not a good time. It's not a good time for me. It's not a good time for you. But allow it, because we tend to try to push past it and just go on and try to be happy because we are the pick yourself up and dust yourself off and we don't have time for that people. Yeah. That is who we are. And I think so, for me, I said, even evaluating this most recent situation for me, I'm saying, you know what? Yes, you had every right to feel the way you feel. Your feelings are valid because you feel them. But how you react to them is just as important as your feelings. Because I don't think we give enough credit as women to men that they hurt, that they become sad, that they are disappointed in themselves. And a lot of times a good man is going to be disappointed that he disappointed you. Yes. And so that will send him spiraling into a semi-depression. It will. And you have to decide if this is the guy that you want to help him work this out. Yeah. And sometimes you shouldn't. Yeah. Because he has to deal with his own demons. Yeah. I think with guys, when they're dating women, and the woman is broken, I call them the walking wounded, you have to decide how much of that, literally like a percentage of your relationship. I'm willing to deal with 20% of this, or I'm willing to put in 30%. And anything beyond that is you just beyond the brevity and scope of my role in this relationship, and be willing to say it's too much and wish them well. And I don't think when you end a relationship, it has to be adversarial.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be.
People make it that way, but it doesn't have to be.
I do want to say this, that sometimes feelings are real.
Yes.
But sometimes your feelings doesn't come from the truth. And sometimes what you feel isn't always what's true. And sometimes you have to manage your feelings and align it with what is true. So sometimes, and I say this in a situation where you say like, in a moment he might feel dumb, but he's really smart. There's nothing dumb in you. But in this moment, you feel dumb, and that's a lie.
Right.
So we're not going to take the lie of your feelings.
Right.
But we're going to align with what we know is true. And you have to...
Yeah.
And so you have to point those things out and be mindful of that. Because we can start believing lies about ourselves, lies about our relationships.
That's right.
And then we started to build and have feelings based off lies.
Yeah.
When that's not even... It's far from the truth.
It's so funny that you said that, because I was talking about a recent situation with a friend of mine, and I told her, like the whole kit and caboodle, because this is my girl, right?
Yeah.
Lives out of state. And she said, but that's not what happened. You know that, right? And she said, that these other people, this one particular person she said, that's not how he went to him. He went to him with it, oh, is she going to be all right? She said, and it was a mastery of manipulation, because this person who had a hidden agenda spun it in a way to him that was unrecognizable and created this doubt. Now, she said it was never said completely, but it was spun in a way that allowed him to think, oh, I don't want this person to feel badly on their day. So I'm going to do this thing that, and then it's not a big deal because these other things are going on. But someone else kind of manipulated the situation to when it came full circle. That's not what, in any of this other ancillary stuff, I'm not responding to that. And so my point was, take a step back and evaluate, because if I had looked at it from a 60-foot range, I would never have had the reaction that I had, because I would have realized this is another factor here, and I don't think we do enough of that.
No, we don't, and it doesn't always take long. Like when things happen and I hear things, and my first question is, okay, how did this happen? How did we get here? And then backtrack, because sometimes it could be a little.
And you can always do that, even in the moment, because I can't.
Right now,
and I know to do it.
Yeah, right now
I'm still trying to get there,
because I realize that's not going to help me. That's not going to help me in this moment. And I'm pretty
girl, you can process
person.
all that when you make good at you.
Listen, I'm an even kill person. Let's say, like, even with my competitions, you're not going to know which way. You don't know if I'm upset, sad. Like, I have a straight. I'm good at that. Like that's a skill that I have.
No, and it's a talent.
So when it comes to those moments, and he might say something, I'm like, okay, rewind. So let me ask you this.
Yeah, and I do that, but I just think about all the women that are like getting caught in that moment where you're like, whoa, for the triggers. So my thing has been, in talking to my friends and myself, how do you not respond? Like, there are certain things you're like, that didn't feel good, and I've said that didn't feel good. I don't like the way this is making me feel. Let me talk to you later. Or I say, no, I'm gonna need to talk about that, because I don't like how that makes me feel. And I literally said that to a guy that was doing work on my house that I know, just, we're friendly, I literally had to say, well, no, this and this happened, and I don't like the way it made me feel. Because I think you need to make that person aware of your feelings. But my thing has been, so many times I've said, and then I ask myself, are you really bothered about that, or is that in this moment? But there are times, Michelle, that it gets away from me.
It does. And I would say, like, when I was married, there's some things that I said in the moment that I probably shouldn't have said. I've learned that lesson, and it doesn't get anybody anywhere.
No, it doesn't.
And so therefore, now I take a step back. When I feel like you pressing on my feelings, I have to decipher within me, like, okay, are you coming for me, or is that a soft spot for me? And I think a lot of times we overreact when it's a soft spot for us that we haven't dealt with yet. And once you get to that point, that's why I think counseling for everybody is very important. You ain't got to go every week for the rest of your life, but always do a little check-in. Because there's something that's going to trigger you, and then you don't really fully deal with it. It's going to build up over time, and it becomes another big issue.
Right.
And so right now, I realize oh, if something makes me feel some type of way, I immediately think, okay, why am I feeling like this? What exactly was he saying to me in this moment?
Right.
Okay, if what he was saying, there is an element of truth, then I need to accept that truth. And then I need to work on that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we'd be quick, like, how dare you say that to me? But if it was true, sis, it's true.
Well,
if you
and
was
you
out
know
of line,
what?
you was out of line.
And the truth is, the truth don't care who tells it.
Exactly. And that's where we have to be more acceptable to the truth, sometimes no matter how it comes to us. If it's true,
that's good.
It's true.
That's good.
And I think a lot of times we get mad when people tell us the truth in the way that we don't want it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away the fact that it's the truth.
That's right.
And the only way you truly grow and truly learn is when you can accept the truth and adapt it and you make it work.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of us, we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to deal with our raw truth.
Well, because the truth means that it deals with your imperfection. And you have to be accountable of your imperfection. And I don't mean people are walking around thinking they're perfect.
Some people do.
Well, yes, some people do. But we're not gonna talk about them. You know, that's a talk show for a different day.
Right.
But in those moments when people say, and I remember hearing, and I got this a lot. I love you, but you do that. Yeah. Like it's like a compliment sandwich, and then they get you. I love you, but you do that. Yeah. So it's not. I am not attacking you on this. This is not me being hypercritical of you. Yeah. But this is through my examination and witnessing your life. These are the things that you do, and we have to. And I know it, and I love you despite that. Yeah. But you need to own it.
Exactly.
So that you can deal with it. So you can stop doing it because clearly he didn't like it. That's the gist of it, right?
No, it's true because we all have to accept it, and we keep going through the same things because we're not accepting our truth.
Yes,
and that does more damage than good. And just because it's your truth doesn't mean it's going to always be your truth.
Right. Right.
It could change if you want it to change. Like you are the deciding factor of how you want your life to go.
Oh, so
if something comes
true.
to you and it's a truth about yourself that you don't like, sis, change it.
Yeah.
Bro, change it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So then next thing you
and
know,
not hide behind it.
Yeah. Well, this is how I always
This is how I am.
I'm an old dog. You can't. No, that's a lie. You can teach a new dog a lot of tricks. You can be the best, oldest dog in the whole world if you teach it.
But it has to be supported. Like that change, that growth has to be supported in love.
Well, it may not be supported where you're currently hanging out in. Oh, sometimes you have to get out of current situations in order to grow in what you want to be true for your life.
That's true.
And a lot of times we want to stay comfortable in environments that really aren't the best for us, i.e. family, i.e. friends, i.e. co-workers, and ex-relationships that you keep having lingering around. Sometimes you have to completely get away from everything to adapt the new truth that you want for your life to truly grow and be the person you desire to be.
I agree. All right, we got to leave it there. This is Coy with the Black Tea Sip, and I have enjoyed Michelle Carter. We're going to have her back. We talked about life after divorce, and I think that some of us really need to just do some self-actualization. We know what we don't want, but what is it about ourselves that we need to change so that we are better prepared to dating? I say this all the time. I say sometimes that first marriage is just opening night. And some of us, it's dress rehearsal. Sometimes that first marriage is dress rehearsal. You kind of put on all the clothes and did all the things. And the next relationship is going to be opening night. Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to leave it there. We'll do it again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And we are out.